The idea is that we have explored some basic operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, all that jazz, with fractions and decimals. But now, we'd like to talk more about what happens when you combine those operations. Because in mathematics, in the language of math, there is a hierarchy between which operations get priority. There's an acronym that we use to help us remember the order of this hierarchy, or of this priority. A lot of people will say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, where multiplication or the M and D go together and the add and subtract, the A and S go together. So again, that is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. For this, the P stands for parentheses or any type of grouping symbol, such as brackets. Also, that would include a divide bar where you have the top separate than the bottom, etc. Oh, and also absolute value. That's a popular one I should also mention. The E in our ordering stands for exponents. M and D, as I kind of mentioned before, stand for multiply or divide. And the A and S stand for add and subtract. Notice again that multiplication and division are on the same level as are addition and subtraction. So they get the same kind of priority. The way you do these problems, any problem that you're working, is as you go through the hierarchy, the parentheses, exponents, multiply or divide, add or subtract, you work left to right through the acronym. And if you're on a certain level, you work left to right within that level or within that category. So let's see an example. First you ask yourself, do you have any parentheses? No. Any exponents? No exponents. Multiplication or division? Sure, right here. 3 times 5. 3 times 5 gives you 15, and we will bring down the plus 2. Now you have one operation left. 2 plus 15 gives you 17. Notice with me that if you had not used the hierarchy, you would have gotten a different answer. If you had not used order of operations and you just went at it in any order, left to right, you would have had 6 times 5 after doing the 2 plus 3 equals 30. And that is not okay. The hierarchy makes a big difference and it does change your answer. Let's practice a couple other examples. Again, we'll use please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses. Well, we do have parentheses here, but notice how if you go on the inside of them, there's nothing that you can actually do to simplify inside of the parentheses. So we'll say, no, there's nothing that we can do to simplify or break those down right now. So we'll go next to exponents. Do we have exponents? Sure. Right here with the squared. So let's see, negative 4 times negative 4, that will give me a positive 16. Then I'm going to recopy the rest of the problem. Next we start again. Do I have any parentheses? No, still don't have parentheses. Any exponents? Nope. Multiply or divide? Sure. Right there. 9 times negative 3. Let's see, a 9 times 3, that's going to be 27. Opposite signs give me a negative. And I'll bring the rest down. Then as we look at this, we say, do I have parentheses? Reading left to right through the problem. No. Exponents? No. Multiply or divide, no. Addition or subtraction, sure. Hit it left to right. So left to right, this is the first one you come to. 16 minus 8. That gives me 8, and I'll bring down the plus negative 27. Since I have opposite signs here and I'm just putting stuff together, really what I'm doing is subtracting. So I'm saying 27 minus 8, that's a 19. And the sign of the larger, that's a negative 19. Okay, let's work another one. How about this? 4 times negative 8 divided by 2 times 7 minus 3 squared. And another bracket. I kind of ran out of room there. That's what you've got. So when you look at it, you say, okay, do I have any parentheses? Sure. Right here. This counts as grouping stuff, right? So once you go inside, you look again and you start with the acronym again. Do I have any parentheses now? Yes. 7 minus 3. So I'm going to do that. 7 minus 3 gives me 4. I still have that squared attached. Times 2, still in my brackets. And I'll copy down the rest of the problem. Now looking at this, I say once again, do I have any parentheses? Sure. Go inside. When I say parentheses again, I do mean all grouping symbols. So yeah, you go inside the grouping symbols, inside the brackets, and then you say, are there more parentheses? No. Next, exponents. Sure. 4 squared. 4 times 4 gives me 16. Bring down my times 2. We still have our brackets, which if you like to write them as parentheses, they do mean the same thing. There's no operation or anything implied. It's just an ordering thing to make sure we take it into consideration first. So again, now that we've rewritten it, we start on the left. Parentheses are grouping. Yes. On the inside, multiply. So we'll multiply and get a 32. Then we'll copy down the rest of the problem. Then you ask yourself again, any parentheses? No. Any exponents? No. Multiply or divide? Yes, you have two. You have multiplication and division. The way we handle this is we work left to right. Anytime you're in the same level, same category, you take it left to right when you're trying to decide when to do what. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this. That's the first thing I see as I hit the problem like a book, reading left to right. 4 times 8 gives me 32. Opposite signs, so I have a negative. Carry down the rest. That was a divide 32. Of course, a number divided by itself gives me a 1. And since they were opposite signs, I have a negative 1. Just so you know, my first instinct with these is always to go ahead and cancel out those negatives first, since I see them basically holding hands or negating first thing. That's what I personally do, if I see just a singular one like that. But just to follow the ordering that I'm kind of walking you through, I'll hold that off till later. Again, if you wanted to do that first, go for it. That won't hurt your problem. But going through this, parentheses, do I have any? Sure. 3 minus 6. Let's take care of that. So 3 minus 6. That's two numbers with opposite signs basically. It's the same as saying a 3 and a positive 3 and a negative 6. So I subtract to get 3, negative for the bigger number. Bring down my 7, bring down my minus negative 1, and we've got that. Then we say, okay, do I have any parentheses? No, nothing that we can do stuff inside to. How about exponents? I don't see anything floating, no powers. Multiplication or division? I don't know, you could consider that multiply or minus, so we'll save that. Add or, oh wait, multiplication or division, actually go ahead and take this one. That is a multiply, isn't it? So 7 times 3 gives me a 21, and it's going to be negative. Then again, we'll bring down this. When you go back through, no parentheses, no exponents, no multiply or divide. Adding or subtracting, sure. Negative 21 minus a negative 1. When you're looking at this, hopefully you remember to cancel. So really we have negative 21 plus 1. Different signs we subtract. 20 minus 1 gives me a 20. And we get negative since that 21, the negative part, was the biggest in quantity. More negatives than positives. Let's look at one more. Let's say you had negative 10 plus negative 2 divided by 6 squared minus 30 divided by absolute value of 2 minus 4. This is a separate example. I'm going to do this so that you can see it better. So looking at this, the first thing you ask yourself, do I have any grouping symbols? Any parenthesis type stuff? And actually you do. When you're looking at a fraction bar, remember that does serve as a grouping symbol. All of this stuff on top goes together and all of this stuff on the bottom goes together. So what we're going to do first is we'll deal with the top. Then we'll go back and we'll work the bottom. So looking at the top, inside the parentheses, all we have is addition. Negative 10, negative 2. Normally, once again, when you're inside here, you go through this entire sequence. Parentheses, no. Exponents, no. Multiply or divide, no. Addition or subtraction, sure. Put that together to get a negative 12 on top. Now we have that. Again, when it comes to parentheses, the bottom of this fraction is treated like its own little grouping set down here. So we'll look inside of these parentheses. On the inside, are there more parentheses? No. Are there exponents? Yes. 6 squared. 6 times 6 will give me a 36. And I'm going to recopy everything else. Now when I look at it and ask myself parentheses, I still see the bottom of the fraction to deal with. 36 minus 30 gives me a 6 with negative 12 on top, divided by absolute value of 12 minus 4. So we have negative 12 over 6 divided by the absolute value of 2 minus 4. What we'll choose to do next is the next grouping symbol we have, which is absolute value. Remember that the absolute value isn't just simplifying what's inside. You simplify what's inside, and then the absolute value itself is actually an operation that you do at the end. So the first thing I'm going to do is 2 minus 4. That gives me a negative 2. Still absolute value bars, because remember I have to do that operation of absolute value in just a moment. 12 over 6, which again you could have rewritten that as a 2, and we'll do that in just a moment. So now we have absolute value of negative 2. When you evaluate it, absolute values are always positive because remember they are the distance from that number and from 0. So we get a positive 2, negative 12 divided by 6. You look at it now and say, okay, do I have any parentheses? Answer is no. Any exponents? No. Multiply or divide? Yes. Start left to right. So negative 12 divided by 6, we'll take care of that now by getting negative 2 divided by 2. And when you divide that, you get negative 1. There's a variety of different order of operation problems that you can work. And if you need to see more out of your homework or just ones that you come up with, I'll be happy to illustrate or work those out for you. The idea, though, is always the same. You still work through this order, this hierarchy we've established, left to right. And every time you go into one, for example, into parentheses or into some grouping, you start all over and re-go through it left to right. Remembering that multiply and divide, add and subtract are on the same level.